And essentially this verse talks about those who have been killed in the cause of Allah. Do not consider them to be dead, but they are alive and provided for by their Lord. And though this is a heavy subject, this evening we will be talking about death. In fact, not just death, but the manner of death that has been employed and used upon prisoners in a way that hardly anyone in this country, in the United States, elsewhere, those key architects of the war on terror have ever spoken about, have ever held themselves accounted for. So let me give you a bit of a background to why we are doing this and where this is coming from. We are commemorating 20 years since the beginning of the war on terrorism, September the 11th, and the ensuing invasion of Afghanistan by the United States of America and its coalition allies. And what allies did they have? That's a question that people don't really ask. We know that there was a coalition of the willing, but what about the coalition or the allies that were on the ground in Afghanistan itself? What were they doing? And what did America and Britain do in relation to the abuses they carried out? In November 2001, an estimated 8,000 to 10,000 Taliban forces surrendered after facing incessant bombing by the United States of America after it began its invasion. This included the use of 15,000-pound daisy cutter bombs. It included surgical strikes, missile strikes, laser-guided bombs, smart bombs, vacuum bombs, cluster bombs, and Tomahawk cruise missiles. All of this massive ordnance thrown upon the Taliban. But also, not just the Taliban, civilians in that area, and in particular one region in Kunduz in the north of Afghanistan. This is where these Taliban soldiers who had been fighting not against America, but against the Northern Alliance, and particularly under the forces of General Abdurrashid Dostum, who is a key component in this story. And when these men surrendered, they were told that they would be given safe passage if they laid down their arms. But what ensued, in fact, was a process that led to a horrific mass killing of mostly unarmed prisoners. You'll be hearing testimony from two people who survived different aspects of this massacre, and one person who's amongst us here right now, who I'll be talking to. So the first person I'm going to introduce to you is somebody that I know well, have met several times, and who was in Guantanamo with me. But his story is not about Guantanamo. His story is about Qala-I-Jangi, a place where around 600 prisoners, amongst those who surrendered in the beginning that I spoke to you of, were sent to by the Northern Alliance. And they were taken to this place called Qala-I-Jangi, which is translated from Farsi into the fortress of war, and almost a fitting name because it became a very terrible snapshot of what that war was. And Walid al-Hajj is a Sudanese national who is originally Nubian. He's from Nubia in Sudan and speaks a particular language that is exclusive to that region, in addition to Arabic. And his recounting of the story that he went through is so well known in the Arab world. He did a series of interviews on Al Jazeera, and really, if you were to hear them, it would shock you to the core to know that what happened and what he experienced was done in the presence of the British Special Forces, US Special Forces, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and CNN, according to what he says. So our first video will be about this. And as we progress through the evening, inshallah, you'll get to learn through these various snapshots of these survivors the magnitude or the scale of what took place. In total, it is estimated that around 5,000 to 6,000 prisoners were killed in both the massacres of Dasht-I-Leili and Qala-I-Jangi. And you will also hear this evening from somebody who witnessed things that me, as a former Guantanamo prisoner who's seen his fair share of terrible things, I cannot even begin to imagine recovering from something like this.